I grew up in Picayune, Mississippi, a racially segregated town, about 10,000 people. Black people lived in their community and whites in theirs. We were taught by our parents, relatives, and other older adults how to avoid getting in trouble and breaking the unwritten rules of segregation, such as never, ever look a white man in his eyes when he talks to you. Never touch a white woman's hand when she puts your change on the counter. And surely, never, ever go to the front door of a white person's house. In 1955, 14-year-old Emmett Till, a black youth from Chicago, came to Mississippi to spend the summer with some of his relatives near Money, Mississippi, a town about 150 miles from my hometown. Till was accused of flirting with, or touching, or whistling at a white woman, which violated the unwritten code of behavior for a black male interacting with a white female. A few nights after that incident, Till was abducted from his relative's home by some white men. And a few days after the abduction, his mutilated body was found in the river. The image of Till's body appeared in Jet magazine with a description of the brutalization. While reading this article, I asked my mother, did they really gouge his eyes out? Yes, they did. Did they really cut out his tongue? Yes, son, they did. Did they really cut off his down below? Yes, son, I'm afraid that they did that too. Now, I was 10 years old when what happened to Emmett Till happened, and I was shaking with a fear beyond imagination. I can only imagine how helpless and alone Till must have felt during the brutalization. But I didn't talk to anybody about my fears, my pain. I kept it all bottled up inside. In the early middle 1960s, things began to rapidly change in the area of civil rights. The Ku Klux Klan and other racist organizations became more active in their efforts to maintain the discriminatory system of segregation. On July 2nd, 1964, President Johnson signed a massive civil rights law that prohibited discrimination in public places, provided for the integration of schools and other public facilities, and made employment discrimination illegal. It was the most sweeping civil rights legislation since Reconstruction. Little did I realize how much to change my world. I was working that summer at a facility in my hometown that we called the Box Factory, because there were wooden boxes that were made of fruit crates. The slats of wood for the boxes would come out of a machine, which had to cut the pieces to the correct size and set them down to the correct conveyor to the employee. Now, to the workers, they had to place the pieces to be secured by wires. The machines and the conveyor belts never stopped. So, if there was a defective board caught in the coal, the worker would quickly throw that piece of wood on the floor, and he would grab the next one. Because I worked at the factory for only a couple of months, during the summer before I went back to college, I was given only small jobs, one of which was to pick up the coals and put them in the hopper. That meant I had to crawl on the floor on my hands and knees to remove the coals from under the machine and from around the workers. You see, there were about 30 black and white women who worked the night shift. There was this one guy, this one white man, who seemed to find a delight in spitting directly in the area where I had to crawl. Now, he didn't do it all the time, but he did it just enough to let me know that he knew, that I knew exactly what he was doing. just enough to activate me. Now, I didn't say anything. No. He was doing his job, and I was doing my job. But I had to figure out a way to get back at him. Now, there were 2 water fountains in the factory. One was for whites, and one was for color, as they used to call it back in the day. I wondered all the time if I should break this old law and get a sip of that cold water from the white fountain. And one night I decided I would defy the de facto law and have a drink of that cold white water. So, just like the spaghetti westerns made famous by Clint Eastwood, fate led the protagonist, that old boy in me, to a face-off at the water fountains. Each of us walking about the same pace, but I intentionally walked a step ahead of him so I could get to that water fountain first. I dipped my head in, and I tasted some of that cold white water that had been denied to me and my people for so long. I took a long drink of that white water. And when I came up for a breath, I licked and I licked and I licked my black lips. And then I took another drink. And that little boy, he came to me and he said, "Can't you read? That sign says white water fountain." And I said, "Hell yeah, I can read." I'm going to college and I'm going to get me an education. And furthermore, the government says there are no more separate white and colored water fountains. So I will drink as much of that water as I want to. And another thing. You need to stop spitting on that floor where I have to pick up the cold wood. Now here I stood. He and I. About 5 minutes. Not saying much, but just enough to call a truce. I got off work about 11 o'clock that night. I had about a 20-minute walk home. Worst of all, I had to walk through the white neighborhood. I envisioned a white mob lurking around every corner, waiting for me. Should I run? Should I walk fast? What was the best thing for me to do to get home safely? I chose a steady walking pace. And I was so glad when I turned the corner and I saw our house. I was relieved to get home and to get into bed. Surprisingly, that night my fear was greatly diminished. Not gone, but diminished. I was proud of myself. See, the next day I knew that I would repeat the same old process. Go to work, confront that same old boy, clean up from around the same machines and drink from that same cold white water fountain. Except, this time, on that second night, no drama. He even began to hold some friendly conversations. And after a few nights, I thought, wow, my fear is gone. I'm not scared. I am not scared of anybody anymore.